right, let's deal with this Liz Cheney thing. If you're unaware to this point, Donald Trump and his MAGA toadies in the House of Representatives are calling for the FBI to conduct a criminal investigation of Liz Cheney, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, for her work on the January 6th committee. You know, Donald Trump is wasting absolutely no time in being the authoritarian thug that we all know he wants to be. And if there was any doubt about whether he would make good on his threats to go after his political enemies, to be a dictator on day one, let there be no further doubt. There shouldn't have been any doubt whatsoever. So I think this is going to be, in terms of Donald Trump using the powers of the presidency, or better put, abusing the powers of the presidency, and probably in many ways illegally using his office to go after his perceived political enemies. And thanks to the Supreme Court, you know, depending upon how he goes about it, there's really nothing anybody can do about it, because the Supreme Court made it very, very difficult to prosecute a president for anything he does while president. He knows that. And so he is going to use his newfound authoritarian powers to go after his political opponents. And what he's doing with Liz Cheney, it didn't begin with Liz Cheney. We've seen it with media organizations, which maybe we'll get to here again in a minute. But this Liz Cheney thing is especially bad, because we're talking about using the Department of Justice. The FBI is the investigative, one of the investigative agencies under the Department of Justice, to investigate and then maybe potentially prosecute people because they dared to oppose Donald Trump. Now, if people committed crimes, have at it. But we know Donald Trump doesn't give a damn if people committed crimes or not. And certainly they have produced nothing to indicate that Liz Cheney actually committed a crime. Let me read a little bit here from The Hill. Now, the Republicans on a committee in Congress have released a report specifically accusing Liz Cheney of committing crimes, specifically the crime of witness tampering. The report's conclusion also calls for an FBI investigation into Cheney, accusing her of witness tampering by being in touch with star witness Cassidy Hutchinson, a former White House aide. So they're saying that because she had contact with a witness that testified before the committee, that is witness tampering, and she should be investigated and prosecuted for the crime of witness tampering. That is, I mean, I shouldn't have to say this, but that is absurd. If it were a crime to talk to witnesses prior to any kind of a legal hearing, or in this case it was a committee hearing before Congress, which isn't a legal hearing, it's a political hearing. But if it was illegal to have contact with a witness before a hearing, then every trial lawyer in America would be in prison, myself included. Because every lawyer talks to witnesses before trial. It's called trial preparation. It's called preparing your witness. In fact, if a lawyer was not talking to witnesses before trial, that would be tantamount to malpractice. Certainly a lawyer is going to prep their own witnesses they intend to call at trial. They're going to talk to those witnesses and prep those. They'll even try to talk to witnesses on the other side if those witnesses will talk to them. There's absolutely nothing wrong with talking to witnesses. Now, you can't, instruct or encouraging. Let me try that again. You can't instruct or encourage witnesses to lie, but that's completely different. Yeah, every prosecutor in the United States, every defense attorney, every civil trial lawyer, we'd all be in prison if that were in fact witness tampering. But it's not witness tampering. But you know who probably did engage in witness tampering? Donald Trump's lawyers. Let's read a little bit more. I'm sure you guys are smart, so you probably are up on this and you were probably aware of this. At the core of the report's assertions are Cheney's contacts with Hutchinson, who was previously represented by another lawyer, before changing representation and ultimately agreeing to testify before the panel in the blockbuster hearing. Hutchinson's initial lawyer, Stefan Pasantino, was accused of encouraging her to say that she remembered little about the day and said she would be able to get a good job in the Trump world. So if there was any witness tampering, instructing witnesses to lie to the committee, it was conducted by Hutchinson's previous lawyer, who was paid for by Donald Trump. Now, I'm sure you guys remember this, because as I said, you are an informed audience. Donald Trump, with all those witnesses testifying before the January 6th committee, most of them were Republicans who worked for Donald Trump. They're the ones who knew what this piece of shit was doing, right? So that's the thing. They accuse all these witnesses of lying. They were all Republican witnesses. These were people who went to Washington to work for Donald Trump and were witnesses to his crimes. They're the witnesses. Anyway, all of those witnesses, Donald Trump paid for their lawyers. These lawyers were working for Donald Trump. Now, a lawyer is supposed to have allegiance, only to the client. They're supposed to work only for the best interests of the client, regardless of who pays them. But we all know that that's not how it works in the real world. So Donald Trump, mob boss, had his mob lawyers represent these witnesses, like this Stefan Pasantino. And this guy was encouraging Cassidy Hutchinson to tell the committee that she remembered little about January 6th. Now, we know that's a lie, because Cassidy Hutchinson testified. She's written a book. She's done lots of interviews. She remembers a lot about January 6th. That lawyer knew she remembered a lot about January 6th, and that lawyer told her to lie to the committee. So if there's any witness tampering going on, it was done by Donald Trump's lawyer with respect to Cassidy Hutchinson. But isn't that always the case? Isn't it always the case that they accuse other people of what they themselves are doing? And what was the nature of Liz Cheney's contact with Cassidy Hutchinson? Reading again from The Hill. It later notes that Hutchinson reached out to Cheney. So Cassidy Hutchinson contacts Liz Cheney, with the lawmaker in her own book noting that she advised the aide, Cassidy Hutchinson, to seek an attorney, as, quote, every witness deserves an attorney who will represent their interests exclusively. So what this is about is Cassidy Hutchinson is not an idiot. And once she was assigned Donald Trump's mob attorney to represent her, and was clearly trying to influence her testimony, saying, hey, tell the committee you don't remember anything, and there's going to be a nice job waiting for you in Trump world. Right? Both of those things are illegal. Telling a witness to lie to the committee, illegal. Bribing a witness for their testimony, illegal. Anyway, so Cassidy Hutchinson is very uncomfortable with this. She knows Donald Trump committed crimes. He sends this mob lawyer to represent her. This mob lawyer is telling her to lie to the committee, offering her a cushy job with Trump world. She's not comfortable with this. She doesn't know what to do. She's a young woman. I think was in her 20s at the time. I could be wrong about that, but she's a young woman. She didn't know what to do. So she called one of the co-chairs of the committee, Liz Cheney. I don't know what to do. Should I get a new lawyer? I'm not comfortable with my lawyer. And Liz Cheney, as an exceedingly responsible person, by the way, advised her to seek an attorney that she trusts, saying, quote, every witness deserves an attorney who will represent their interests exclusively, which is 100% true. And it was clear to Cassidy Hutchinson that this lawyer was not representing her interests. This lawyer was representing Donald Trump's interests. So Cheney did absolutely nothing wrong here at all. And by the way, just as an aside, even if she did do something wrong in speaking in Cassidy Hutchinson, and she absolutely did not, but assuming for argument's sake that she did, guess what? She has immunity under Congress's speech and debate protections. You know, it's funny, Donald Trump, there's absolutely no immunity for presidents specified or even alluded to anywhere in the Constitution. Yet, the Supreme Court made it up out of whole cloth. Well, he has to have immunity, so we're giving him immunity. Yet, the Constitution specifically grants immunity to members of Congress doing their jobs as congresspeople. Specifically, right there, speech and debate clause. Now, I think that the courts have expanded the plain meaning of the speech and debate clause to apply to things that I don't think the speech and debate clause applies to, but whatever. That's the case law, the body of case law on the speech and debate clause, and under that case law, anything that Liz Cheney did related to her work for this congressional committee is protected. She is immune. She cannot be prosecuted for it, even if she did do anything wrong, and she didn't. So, now I don't know ultimately what their goal is, but clearly this is going to be the pattern, I think. Congress, controlled by Republicans, will make all kinds of recommendations about people who should be investigated and prosecuted. And they'll do that because Donald Trump tells them to do that. And the Trump administration, Kash Patel, whoever it is, at the FBI, at the DOJ, whoever it is, will use the referral from Congress as the predicate and as the excuse for investigating these enemies of Donald Trump, these political opponents of Donald Trump. They will use that as the justification. So they'll be able to say, oh, it's not just us we're not going after these people. We got a referral from Congress. We're just doing our job. Congress sends us a criminal referral. It's our obligation to investigate these people. That's what I think we're going to see a lot of. I think that's what this is about. It's the justification. Now, ultimately, are they going to prosecute her? They sure as hell could. I mean, you've heard it said you can indict a ham sandwich. As someone who has conducted many grand jury proceedings, presented, I don't even know how many cases, hundreds of cases to grand juries. Yes, I can tell you this is absolutely 100% true. There's no judge at a grand jury. There's no opposing argument from a grand jury. The other side's lawyer isn't there. The target doesn't get to testify unless the grand jury and the prosecutor allows it. So you can rig these things easily. You can indict anyone for anything. The grand jury only knows what you tell the grand jury. Okay, that's why it's important to have principled people who abide by their oath to the Constitution in these positions of power. Otherwise, these things can be abused, and obviously Donald Trump is going to abuse this. So, can they prosecute her? They absolutely can indict her. They certainly can investigate her. They know they have no case against her. But how far do they want to take it? Do they want to just make her life a living hell with an FBI investigation? Or do they want to indict her and make her life further hell by having to go through a criminal trial? I think probably the latter. Why the hell not? There doesn't seem to be any guardrails. I don't think Donald Trump gives a fuck about anything anymore. I mean, he is just... And you could see it with what he's doing to the media. I don't have time to talk any more about that right now, but I did want to just bring this stuff to your attention about Liz Cheney. It's outrageous. And again, if anything, it's Trump's people. If we're going to go after people for witness tampering with respect to witnesses before that committee, it's Trump's lawyers. I mean, this friggin' person, Stefan Pasentino, why the hell was that person never charged? Why was there no investigation of that person? You know, Merrick Garland, I mean, obviously the January 6th committee had no power to charge anyone. Again, You need the Department of Justice for this. And who did we have at the helm? Merrick freaking Garland. How many Congress people were part of this criminal conspiracy to overturn the last election? A number of them were. We know for sure. Probably more than we know. Nothing happened to any of them. Nothing. Merrick Garland must have said, hands off, members of Congress. We're not even going to go there. So Jim Jordan, some jackass from Pennsylvania, I can't remember his name at the moment. You know, there were a whole bunch of them who were involved in this criminal conspiracy. You got lawyers. I mean, this person shouldn't even be practicing law. This person should clearly be disbarred. And not a thing happened to this person. And yet they're going to investigate and potentially indict Liz Cheney for what? Because a witness who was worried that she was being manipulated by the mob attorney reached out to her and said, what should I do? I don't trust this lawyer. And Liz Cheney says, you have a right to be represented by a lawyer you trust and who will represent your interests. That's what she told her. That's it. That's a crime. Nobody will really know this. Nobody will know the facts of this. All that people will know is that Liz Cheney is being criminally investigated. Well, then she must have done something wrong. She must have committed a crime. And if she's indicted, she must be guilty. No one will know the facts about any of this. And I don't watch mainstream media hardly at all anymore. But if this is talked about at all, to what degree is it talked about? Do people bring up this Placentino scumbag? Do people turn the tables and say if there's any fucking witness tampering going on, it's by Trump and his mob goons? I don't know. Maybe they're saying that. I seriously doubt it. Anyways, I'm so disgusted over all this. I gotta go. Thanks for watching. Be well, and I'll talk to you again soon.